Be honest. Do your kids or grandkids remember what they unwrapped last Christmas? Probably not. The good news is holiday gifts can go beyond toys and gadgets. You can make financial gifts that can shape a child's future much beyond Christmas morning. So today we're going to talk about 3 smart, tax-advantage ways to invest in a young person's future. A 529 plan, a Roth IRA, and a UGMA or UTMA custodial account. So let's dive right into these options. First, the 529 plan. This is also called an educational Roth. That's because it is a tax-advantage savings plan that is designed to encourage saving for education expenses only. Funds grow tax-free, that's the Roth part, and withdrawals are tax-free as long as they're used for qualified education costs, things like tuition, books, etc. Now, newer rules also allow rolling unused funds in a 529 to a regular Roth IRA for the beneficiary, subject to limits. So in 2025, if you're considering this as a gift, contribution details are as follows. First, there's no annual federal contribution limit. Yay! But the contributions to 529 are considered gifts for tax purposes. So that means up to $18,000 per donor per beneficiary can be given annually without triggering the gift tax. So you might want to consider that a limit, even though the IRS doesn't say that's a 529 limit. You also have the option to front load 5 years worth of contributions at one time. So that would be $90,000 per individual into a 529 plan. Kind of interesting. Now, the pros of a 529 are the tax-free growth, obviously, and tax-free withdrawals if used for education. The funds can also be used to cover K through 12 expenses or trade schools. So it's not just college, but think education. You can also change the beneficiary within the family. If the funds aren't used by one child, maybe one child gets a full ride, a scholarship, great. You could change it to another child. And that includes grandchildren as well. The Roth conversion rule, which is relatively new, gives long-term flexibility. And there are several rules if you're considering this option. So please reach out to one of us about that information. Now, the cons of a 529, well, penalties and taxes would apply if withdrawals aren't used for education. Sometimes there are also limited investment options. Now, this depends on the plan's menu. So each state sponsors a 529 plan. And if you live in a state that has income taxes, you probably want to look at your state's plan first, because that often includes a break on your state's income taxes. Now, this is not true at the federal level. So for those of us that live in Texas and we don't have state income taxes, it doesn't really matter. We can use any plan nationwide because there's not that offset of state income taxes. A 529 may be included as a parental asset in determining financial aid. It doesn't harm financial aid as much as a student asset, but still should be taken into account. So there's a 529 in a nutshell. Can be a really smart gift to give to a child. But what if you aren't quite sure if you want to tie up your gift for education only? That's where we move on to the next smart idea. Roth IRA for kids with earned income. Now, first off, a Roth IRA you may be familiar with. It's a retirement account that grows tax-free if you hold it till age 59 and a half. And it's a very long-term gift. That's even longer than the idea of the gift of education. So you kind of have to be really into that long-term idea. Here's the other catch. The child must have reported earned income from legitimate work, not an allowance. So this could be a best fit for small business owners. It could be a legitimate expense like paying child to model for photos. Could be doing admin work like filing or social media support. Probably a lot of us older folks kind of rely on the younger folks to help us with some of that tech. And that can be legitimate work that would have earned income that could then go into a Roth. Now, parents can make the contributions or they can match them. If you want to encourage the child to put some of their own earnings into a Roth and you act almost like an employer, match into that. In 2025, there is a contribution limit on Roth IRAs that's up to $7,000 or the child's earned income amount, whichever is less. So if the child's paid $2,000 over the course of the year, you can only contribute $2,000 into a Roth IRA. Now, the pros obviously are the tax-free growth and the tax-free withdrawals when they get to retirement. Also, the fact that it is a long-term investment means there is a lot of time for compound tax-free growth in a Roth IRA. Pretty powerful. It can help to teach a child discipline and long-term investing early in life. And when done properly, if you have a small business, this can reduce your tax bill as a deductible expense to an employee, as well as building the child's wealth tax-free. So the cons, of course, are that the child must have that earned income. It can't be passive income or gift income. You also need to file a tax return, or you may need to file a tax return, depending on your situation for the child. And of course, if it is withdrawn early, the earnings may face taxes and penalties. There's a little flexibility there, though, on a Roth. You can take out your contributions anytime tax-free, but only what you've put in. So the earnings, the tax-free growth, can't touch that until after age 59 and a half. Now, there's a question out there that I also am hearing recently, a new development, and that is regarding Trump accounts. Little bit similar to a Roth, but not quite the same. The main difference is that a Trump account is a tax-deferred account for children, and it converts to a traditional IRA at age 18. So it's not tax-free, it's tax-deferred, and withdrawals would be taxed as ordinary income. The benefit, though, is that Trump accounts are available to any child under 18 with a Social Security number. So it doesn't have the required earned income portion of a Roth IRA. And the government seeds eligible newborns with $1,000 for free, and families can contribute up to $5,000 per year. So IRS guidance came out on this just last week, and the new rules and the new plan are still being figured out. But it's an interesting option that's out there now. I still think that the Roth or a 529 beats out this option due to the tax-free element of either of those vehicles. Smart strategy tip is to think of an IRA as a retirement gift in training. If you make modest, consistent contributions, those can compound dramatically by adulthood and really start off your child on the right foot. But let's say you want more flexibility. Not tying up the gift either for retirement or for education. You just kind of want them to maybe start investing and help to learn smart money management. Have I got something for you? It's called the UGMA or UTMA custodial account for flexible investing. So this is a Uniform Gifts to Minors or Uniform Transfers to Minors Act is what that stands for. And they're just investment accounts that are managed by an adult custodian until the minor reaches the age of majority, between 18 and 21 years old. There's no contribution limit on this one, but contributions are considered irrevocable gifts. So they're subject to the annual gift tax limit that we mentioned before. That's $18,000 per donor per beneficiary in 2025. So the pros on these kinds of accounts is they're so flexible, extremely flexible. They can be spent on anything to benefit the child. So extracurricular activities, a car, travel, pretty much anything that you would like. They can also be invested in a very broad range of assets. They aren't limited to the menu like a 529 plan is. And they're very easy to set up, and there are no penalties for taking out distributions for non-educational expenses. So what are the cons here, Laura? Well, the main con that some grandparents and parents don't like is that a UTMA becomes a child's asset at the age of majority. So they gain full control and access at the age of 18 and 21. And that depends on your state's guidelines, by the way, if it's 18 or 21. So some parents don't like this because they could go off and spend it and on whatever they want. It could be unwisely. But some parents do like that flexibility because it's an opportunity to teach children about wise money management. Very personal choice. There also is the potential for the kiddie tax on the unearned income in a 529. It is just an investment account, but it is considered the child's asset, so it would be taxed at the child's tax rate, which is often lower than the parent's tax rate. So I mentioned that it is a child's asset that can weigh pretty heavily against financial aid. So that's something else to consider. Unlike a 529, which is considered the parent's asset, a UTMA they know it's an irrevocable gift. So it is considered the child's asset and could work against you. So how do you choose amongst these 3 or 4 great options? Well, it depends on what your goal is and what you want to communicate or teach the child that you're gifting to. So if you're thinking about education is really the value I want to instill, 529 is a great way to go. If you're thinking more about long-term savings for retirement, Roth IRA is incredible. And if you really prefer the flexibility and experience with investments, that's a gift, then the UGMA or UTMA might be something to consider. At Shadowridge, we manage all 3 types, and it is a joy to help clients navigate the holidays through a gifting lens. A thoughtful financial gift can teach lifelong lessons about saving, investing, and planning for the future. So think about that before you wrap the next gift.